We work with a lot of CEOs and CFOs, and we have repeatedly seen one common mistake in the data strategy being committed over and over again that costs companies heavily. What that mistake is and how do you solve for it analytically and structurally is something that I will discuss. Let's start. The one common mistake that I have seen being committed in companies is the data collection strategy, or the ERP strategy, is often mixed with data reporting or analysis strategy. Now, these two things are very different things. Generally, when a company is trying to build an ERP system or trying to implement a software, and the essential purpose of that software is data collection, somehow the data analysis kind of creeps in and then tries to overtake that data collection work and also starts to build data reporting systems right within where the data is being collected. And that is the mistake that is causing a lot of companies and a lot of C-suite executives a lot of money. Let me help you understand that why this is such a big problem and how do you actually structurally solve for it. If you understand the primary function of data storage or building a process, that means that it is essentially there to just keep the process running and the data is being collected, not to analyze the data. The thing is that when you're trying to build an ERP that is built for a long term, that is going to serve you at least for a few years until that technology or your need actually surpasses the thing that you're trying to build at the moment. But the thing with analysis is that as your company is changing, with the very same sales data or whatever production data that you're collecting, the analysis could be very different. The data could be the very same given by the software, but the analysis can literally move by the speed of the week. Every single week, you could have a different analytical requirement. And that is where the conundrum comes into place, where if something keeps changing over and over again, and you're trying to hard code that as a process within your ERP system, obviously your ERP is going to fail. And the other problem is that you can't even foresee that what in the future analysis do you want that you want to build for today. And that's where a lot of these ERP systems fail. Not technically their feature set is lacking, but what your requirement is going to be in the future cannot be tamed in today's description of the ERP. That is the real problem. So what you're trying to mix is that something that I might need in the future, you're trying to build for that today. So what you need to do is you need to separate out these two things completely separate. The other thing is that a lot of times when you're trying to build ERPs or any kind of software that helps you organize the business into different processes, you're trying to build these systems in isolation. For example, if you are running, let's say, any kind of a restaurant business, you have some kind of software that actually captures your billing data. But let's just say that if you're also trying to run promotions and you're trying to run ads, and all of that ads data is completely isolated, non-interacting with your sales data. It could be there on Google Ads, it could be there on Instagram, it could be there on YouTube, someplace, but not your billing software. And if you're trying to integrate these two together into your ERP, that is absolutely going to fail, because the next time when your business grows, you would need the third requirement, and then how would you integrate all of that? Building an ERP or some kind of data storage solution is like building a house. But you don't decide how do you want to live inside the house the day that you build it. Maybe the placement of the bed inside of the bedroom could be a slight different. Maybe a few months down the line, you decide to do that. So you can keep changing structurally how the house is being used over and over again during the entire course of your usage of the house. But the house itself is not going to dictate that how the house is going to be used in the future, because that is very likely to change. Now, comes the question. Now that we have this problem and we've understood that why the data collection system needs to be completely separate with the data reporting or analysis system, how do we even attempt to solve this kind of problem? The solution actually comes in two stages. The ad hoc solution that a lot of companies try to implement and they fail. I'll talk about that. And then an automated and more planned solution, which is what I will highly ascribe you to actually use. Let's just talk about the ad hoc solution. So companies that have realized that my analytical needs keep changing and the analytical structure or the reporting framework needs to be completely separate from my data storage framework, they kind of start to employ people to do that kind of analysis. Now, the problem is that most of this work is kind of manually done in Excel when your needs are going through the roof. So you would want people to kind of do a lot of Excel jugglery in order for you to understand the data. So you would get the data, download the data from some kind of system, write a bunch of VLOOKUPs, apply filters, do your pivots, charts, whatever that is, and then it comes to some ready analysis that you would want from the data. And that's what people kind of call themselves as data analysts or some kind of MIS analyst, and their job is to do that repeated work of doing that analysis. Companies who have successfully done it, they often run into problems where the work that is being done in Excel is too much time consuming, because eventually the analysis that you would want is somehow now standardized and you would want to take a look at the same things over and over again. It's not changing that much. So you would want to kind of take that piece of analysis that you have built and code it in some kind of ERP software so that it starts to give you, and remove that human intervention and time-taking process that all the analysis is being built, which is fine. But the problem is that, again, you are trying to hard code all the analysis, and even the slightest change in the analysis, you would have to go back to the software developer or the ERP developer or the data collection system and then try to change that through the code. And then verifying those numbers with respect to what is right, what is wrong is another whole game altogether. So here is what I propose, which is the level 2 system, which requires a lot of thinking and planning right at the onset. And we don't automate or we don't integrate the analysis in the data storage systems, but we integrate that as a separate system altogether, which is the analytical engine. Now, a lot of modern tools have come out, which such as Excel, not the old Excel like writing VLOOKUPs and filters and things, but the power tools in Excel, such as Power Pivot, Power Query, Power View, those kind of things, and Power BI. These tools are absolutely incredible in running mid to large data reporting systems of millions and millions of dollars of companies that collect vast amounts of data. We work with companies in distribution space, in FMCG space, in the hospitality space, in almost every kind of sector where the data collection is huge, and we have used these tools to build their very sophisticated reporting systems and requirements. I'll give you a brief of how these systems work, and hopefully that will give you some light about how can you start implementing these systems. The modern tools such as Excel and Power BI, the power tools in Excel and Power BI, what they allow you is a 3-stage approach. The first approach is that you get the data from as many isolated systems as possible. Now, these could be your ERP system, these could be your marketing system, these could be the separate budget Excel files that the CEOs have prepared to forecast the sales. All of that is then combined into a single engine, cleansed it, and then what you prepare out of that is the model. Once you actually prepare the model, then you start to write calculations. Now, the calculations are not hard-coded. For example, if you want to take a look at sales last year and you want to take a look at by the region, the model provides flexibility enough that you can now take a look at the last year's sales by region and also by, let's say, the product category or by some other dimension. That flexibility is there in the model, and even beyond that. So once you write these calculations, then the third layer comes on top of that, which is visualization. Now, the beauty about these systems is that they are highly scalable and they are super, super fast to develop, unlike the old tools, which is where you have to code through every single thing. I'm not saying that these are code-free tools, but the way that you actually put together all of these systems and the way that these softwares are built are extremely friendly for doing analytical and data processing work. You have asked me to separate out my reporting layer with my data storage engine layer. How do I even get started beyond that? Like, I understand these two things need to be separate, but how do I get going beyond these things? The very first thing that you need to do is clearly write down that what is the analytical need that you want to serve through all of these reporting systems. Write down all the metrics. If in case you want to take a look at the past video, which is where I have asked you to plan all of these things in a structured way, that is going to tremendously help you. But once you have written down all of what you would want, then you might want to get either a person who can develop these things for you in-house, or in case you do not really find that kind of person, then you can also outsource it to us. In case you're interested, we do a lot of this kind of analytical reporting work for a lot of mid to very large companies in India and abroad. In case you're interested, my contact is going to be down below, and I look forward to speaking to you. But do not mix the data reporting layer with the data storage layer. Those two things are separate, and that is going to save you so much time, effort, and money. I'll see you in the next one.